Some albums challenge expectations and initially don't get the love they deserve. In this video, we'll look at 8 of the most misunderstood albums of all time. Witness by Katy Perry. Katy Perry's Witness is one of the most infamous examples of misunderstood pop albums. After the sugary pop sounds of Teenage Dream and Prism, which were very successful, Katy attempted to pivot to a more experimental sound with Witness. The lead single, Chained to the Rhythm, was a disco-infused, more politically charged song, which was a far cry from the carefree bangers fans expected, and they were divided in the reception of the album. While the rollout of Witness was undeniably messy, from odd live streams to awkward performances, the album itself contains bold ideas. Songs like Deja Vu, Power, and Tsunami had intriguing production and ambition, but in trying to merge political awareness with electro-pop, Katy faced backlash for seeming inauthentic. The reception became more about the failed rebrand than the actual music, and it overshadowed the creative risks she took. Today, Witness is undergoing a bit of a reevaluation. Many pop fans now see it as a misunderstood gem that dared to do something different. With over 1.6 billion total streams and a #1 debut on the Billboard 200, Witness wasn't the flop it was made out to be. It was just ahead of its time. Glitter by Mariah Carey. When Glitter dropped on September 11, 2011, the timing couldn't have been worse. Released on the same day as 9/11, the album was buried. But even beyond its unfortunate release date, Glitter was dismissed by critics and fans who weren't ready to accept Mariah's shifts in sound. They called it confusing, and the movie it was associated with bombed at the box office. However, in the years since, Glitter has become a cult favorite among Mariah's fanbase. She experimented with retro production, paying homage to her influences. The lead single, Loverboy, even became one of the best-selling singles of 2001 in the US, despite being mocked by the media. In 2018, fans launched the Justice for Glitter campaign, propelling the album to #1 on iTunes. Nearly 2 decades later, Mariah herself acknowledged the love and even incorporated some of Glitter tracks into her setlist. What was once seen as a career low is now seen as a misunderstood pivot. CXOXO by Camila Cabello. Camila Cabello's 4th studio album CXOXO may be one of the boldest, most polarizing pop releases in recent memory, ditching her polished radio-friendly sound with a more chaotic experimental mix of hyperpop and Latin club beats. Camila introduced fans to a new sound they didn't see coming. It was messy and completely unapologetic, a sharp departure from Romance and Familia. When it was released, CXOXO received mixed reviews and underwhelming chart performance. The album debuted at #34 on the Billboard 200, selling just 36,000 units in its first week, her lowest debut to date. Many critics called it attention-seeking, but dig deeper and the album has something to it. Songs like Chanel #5 and I Love It featuring Playboi Carti were chaotic, but they grow on you over time. And you gotta give it to Camila's willingness to take risks at the cost of alienating her fanbase. As time passes, CXOXO is gaining traction with Gen Z audiences who appreciate its sound. Much like Art Pop and Bionic before, it may not have hit immediately, but it's going to be called underrated in a couple of years. Kissland by The Weeknd. When The Weeknd dropped Kissland in 2013, it didn't hit like it was supposed to. After his mysterious and game-changing trilogy of mixtapes, expectations were sky high for his official debut. Instead of delivering radio-ready hits, Kissland leaned even harder into horror movie aesthetics and emotionally detached lyrics. It was unapologetically dark, far from the upbeat tracks he would be known for today. While it debuted on #2 on the Billboard 200, and has since been certified gold by the RIAA, Kissland was initially seen as a commercial disappointment. Critics at the time called it directionless, but over time, it has gained a cult following. It served as a creative bridge between his underground roots and the pop megastar he would later become. Today, Kissland is viewed as a misunderstood masterpiece. Songs like Professional and the title track have aged beautifully in the streaming era, and many die-hard fans even consider it one of The Weeknd's best body of works. Lust for Life by Lana Del Rey. When Lust for Life dropped in 2017, Many fans were taken aback by his tone shift. Lana Del Rey, who had built her mystique on sad vintage aesthetic, began smiling on her album cover for the first time. But the album was one of Lana's most complex and layered works. Songs like Love and the title track featuring The Weeknd reflected on youth and the problems that come with fame, while songs like Coachella, Woodstock, On My Mind showed her addressing the instability in the world. Collaborations with A$AP Rocky and Stevie Nicks expanded her sound without abandoning her core. Over time, fans have revisited Lust for Life with greater appreciation. Today is seen as a turning point, where Lana became a cultural commentator in her own way. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 and has since amassed over 2 billion streams on Spotify, showing that even if initial reactions were mixed, the album has some staying power. American Life by Madonna. Released during a tense political climate in the post-9/11 world, Madonna's American Life was destined to ruffle feathers, but few expected the wave of backlash it would receive, with lyrics questioning the war. The album arrived with a controversial title track and the even more controversial original music video, which was pulled before release due to its anti-war imagery. It was a bold pivot from the dance floor pop that made her a legend. Critics weren't kind. Many dismissed it as preachy. Commercially, it did fine in Europe, but struggled in the US, as it peaked at #1 but plummeted quickly, and the singles received minimal radio play. Still, Madonna stood by it, calling it one of her most honest and personal albums. 2 decades later, American Life has undergone a major reevaluation. Songs like Nobody Knows Me and The Ecstatic Process are some of her most underrated songs. Once seen as a huge misstep in her career, it is now viewed as one of Madonna's most misunderstood but amazing works. If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power by Halsey. When Halsey released If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power, she flipped her entire public image on its head. She abandoned the commercial singles. Instead, she teamed up with Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross of 9 Inch Nails to create a dark alt-rock concept album about womanhood and identity. Some fans didn't know what to make of it. It didn't sound like they expected. The production was gritty and cinematic, sounding more like film scores than radio hits. The visuals, from the Renaissance-inspired cover, were deliberately different. Critics were divided. While some praised it for its ambition, others found it alienating. But what they failed to see is that Halsey wasn't trying to please anyone. She was making an artistic statement. Commercially, the album still performed well, as it debuted at #2 on the Billboard 200, opening with 98,000 units sold. Over time, the album has gained a reputation as Halsey's most daring and cohesive project, and it is now seen as a misunderstood gem in her discography. Yeezus by Kanye West. Kanye West's Yeezus was his most divisive project when it was released. At first listen, it cut through the noise. With its industrial beat and aggressive distortion, it was a new sound for him. Songs like On Sight and Black Skinhead left listeners that were waiting for the lush samples confused. Commercially, the album still did well. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 and has since gone double platinum, but the initial critical reception was chaotic. Some called it genius, while others found it messy or intentionally provocative for no reason. Kanye's lyrics were darker, but many missed the messages buried underneath the abrasive sound. Fast forward to today, and Yeezus is considered one of Kanye's best albums, influencing a generation with its experimental production, and is now seen as a blueprint for boundary-pushing hip-hop. The album might have shocked listeners in 2013, as it is one of the most polarizing albums of all time. Which misunderstood albums did I miss? Tell me in the comments below.